everybody, it's Tmika with Scrap the World. I am here with a Scrapbook Pal video. Today I am showcasing the Spellbinders Universal Book Spine. I will be showing you how to create this quick, easy, and fun summertime mini album from start to finish using the Universal Book Spine as well as other dies that you can find at scrapbookpal.com. Please remember to check the description box below for links to the blog post where you will find the written instructions. Now let me share with you the items that I used. Today we'll be using the Universal Book Spine by Spellbinders, also known as the Universal Accordion Fold Spine. The Spellbinders Nestabilities Label 28, I'll be using a second from the largest die. Spellbinders A2 Divine Eloquence, using that second from the largest die as well. Spellbinders Happy Day Bold Type, both of those dies will be used today. Scrapbook 3D Foam Squares, 1/4 inch Scrappy Tape, Art Glitter Glue Dries White, Scrapbook Adhesive Easy Runner Grand, and also Simply White Crystal Nuvo Drops. Other items you will need are a paper trimmer, a pair of scissors, a corner rounder, it's not necessary but it's optional, a bone folder. I'm using some larger 1-inch tape, double-sided tape, and some chipboard. We'll also need some coordinating cardstock. I'll be using white. So start out with your chipboard pieces. You'll need to cut 2 pieces at 5 3/4 by 4 1/2, and then 1 piece at 2 by 5 3/4. We will be wrapping those chipboard pieces using double-sided tape. Connect your 2 pieces of coordinating cardstock. I'm using 2 8.5 by 11 sheets, and I'm connecting them so they can wrap around those 3 chipboard pieces above. So I'm using that larger tape. Feel free to use smaller tape, but just make sure you at least get a 1/2 inch in thickness. So connect the 2 white pieces together so that they cover the double-sided adhesive, making one long sheet. Now grab all your chipboard pieces and make sure you add double-sided tape to the back. Use your bone folder to go ahead and give those a good press so they adhere closely and tightly to the chipboard. Remove all of the chipboard pieces from the double-sided tape, and we're going to layer those onto the 2 pieces of white cardstock that we just pushed together. I like to start out with my spine piece, and I like to center that where the connecting pieces are on the cardstock. And I usually leave about 1/8 of an inch gap between all of the chipboard pieces. This I eyeball, but feel free to use a ruler or the thickness of another piece of chipboard if you're a little unsure. Gently use your bone folder to follow the perimeter of all the chipboard pieces so you're able to fold those edges over onto itself a little bit better. So that's what we want to do. Just make sure we fold over all of the white cardstock, and then we're going to cut off the extra. I usually use leave about 1 inch gap around the perimeter of the chipboard. Now we're going to miter the corners. Where the score marks intersect, you just want to cut them off both at an angle. Be careful to make sure that you don't go in too deep to touch the chipboard. Just make sure you cut right outside where the score marks intersect. The next thing we want to do is go ahead and add our scrappy tape to all of the shown parts on this cardstock. I don't put any on the chipboard. I just make sure I get complete coverage around the perimeter on all of the 4 pieces of the cardstock. Then you want to take your bone folder and go over all of that double-sided tape. Make sure that it is secure on that cardstock. We're going to peel off the edges on all of the pieces and fold them onto the chipboard. And since we already pre-scored, it should be easy to do this. Be careful not to varnish the edges too much, as the paper may crack. So just be gentle. We've already kind of guided it with our score tool beforehand, so just go ahead and fold those over. Gently take your bone folder and kind of lightly crease where you've intersected your chipboard so that your mini album book can fold over nicely. Now I'm cutting a piece of pattern paper down to 7 3/8 by 1 7/8. That's just 1/8 of an inch smaller than the spine, and I'm going to use it to wrap that around. It adds a little bit of interest to my simple and easy fun mini album. So go ahead and attach just a little bit of the edge at the top. Slowly and carefully wrap it around. As you'll see, if you get too eager, you got to pull it up. So just be gentle. Wrap that around the spine, and then go ahead and tuck the rest under the bottom and back up to the middle. So you'll see here, very easy, and it just adds a fun little wrap to the book. Use your bone folder to secure all those edges. Really cute. So this is what you should have right now. Your book is coming along quite nicely. So now we want to go ahead and cover up the inside. Using another piece of plain cardstock, I'm going to cut it down to 5 3/4 by 11 and place that right on the inside with a lot of double-sided tape. Make sure you secure that the best way you can, and then use your bone folder to get those papers to get themselves locked together, because nothing is worse than a creaking mini album. Go ahead and take your bone folder again, follow along those score marks that you made, those crease marks that you made earlier, and fold up your mini album. Don't do this cold. You want to guide it along and you want to nurture it slowly, otherwise your paper may crack. So use your bone folder again to make sure all of the paper is sticking, and you should be done. And this is what you should have so far. Nice, clean, and crisp mini album base. So now we're going to take 2 pieces of coordinating cardstock. We're going to cut it down to 6.5 by 5 3/4, and then we're going to cut 2 other pieces down to 5.5 by 4 1/8, and this will create the envelope that we're going to use to make our spine. So I'm going to make 1 here, and then we're going to repeat that 3 more times to finish the album. The piece that you're using that is 5.5 by 4 1/8, those 2 pieces, round one of the corners. It's optional, you don't have to, but it does make the mini album have a little bit more distinction. So take your 6.5 by 5 3/4 inch paper, and on the 6.5 inch side, on the left here, you want to score at 1/2 inch. You want to turn it 90 degrees, score it at 1/2 inch. Turn it another 90 degrees, score it at 1/2 inch. And final 90 degree, you want to score that at 1 inch. So now you want to take that piece and do a little bit of mitering. There's 2 tiny little corners at the bottom. You want to go ahead and miter just like we did when we made the cover, and that's cutting at an angle right where the score marks intersect. You want to do that on the left and the right. And then at the top where we scored at the 1 inch, there's an intersecting piece. You want to cut that again at an angle right to that corner there, and follow that along with another angle. And I'll show you here in pen on that last piece. You guys will know what I'm talking about. So that's where the paper intersect the score marks. You're cutting down at a little angle there on that side, and you're following up at the top and cutting it at an angle as well. You're essentially cutting out that top corner and then angling both ends, if that makes any sense. So you should end up with a piece that looks like that. Go ahead and fold over all of your score marks and give it a tight press with the bone folder. Make sure you get all of those edges nice and crisp. So now that everything is all folded over, flip it backwards, and that tab that you scored, that's 1 inch, go ahead and apply some double-sided tape, and we're going to attach that to the piece that we rounded the corner. That's the piece that's 5.5 by 4 1/8. We're going to attach that to that little tab. Now we don't want to adhere this last piece, but I just want to show you how it will be put together. So that final 5.5 by 4 1/8 piece will create a little pocket on this envelope. We'll attach that when we get the spine together. For now, I want you to go ahead and cover all of these little pieces up with layers of cardstock to cover everything. And I just cut mine down to 1/8 of an inch smaller than the original piece. So here I'm showing you what I'm doing, and I use double-sided 12 by 12 paper. It works for this. These 2 layers measure 5 3/8 by 4, and this is going to be used for that square piece that we did not round the corner. So it's the back of the envelope, as you can see, the tab we just placed. It's the back of the envelope, and the top layer of the front envelope that makes the pocket is that 5 3/8 by 4. So each envelope uses 4 pieces of cardstock if you're covering up everything. If you're not, then you're using your base cardstock and just applying pictures. That works well. But if you want to do that, you need 2 of these pieces that are 5 3/8 by 4, and that's going to go on top of the envelope. We're not adhering it yet. We're just adding pattern paper. So now for the rounded layers, and make sure you remember to round it before you adhere it to your envelope. These are 5 3/8 by 4 as well, and you'll need 2, but these 2 you need to round 2 of those corners if you did it with the original envelope. Otherwise, just place it on there as normal. A quick tip for this is using your double-sided 12 by 12s, but also page kits. If you're looking to use up some of your page kits, this is a great way. You can cut out a bunch of these little pieces and they will go rather quickly because we're making 4 of these sets. So you need a few pieces of covered pattern paper. So that's the first one. You want to create that 3 more times so we can have a set of 4. Remember, we are not adhering that last piece yet. We're going to hear that when we attach it to the spine, but I like to get all this done together first. That way it makes assembly go much faster. So let's get started on that assembly. So I grabbed my Spellbinders Universal Book Spine and I used some 110-pound weight cardstock. So I'm going to explain to you how this works. There are 4 sets of 3 lines. In the middle line, the second line, you want to just tint that up. And I'm trying to point it out to you, but it's hard to do that with white cardstock. So listen to me. The middle line, there's 4 sets of 3. That middle line, all you want to do is pinch that up towards you, going up like a mountain. And then the either side of that, you want to go down. So pinch it up, go forward and crease it over, and go back and crease the other one. That way it's a hill and valley situation, and that's how it should look. So you have the 3 lines. The first line is going in, second line is going up, third line is going down. Then there's a space, and you'll repeat that 3 more times until you get 4 peaks. So it's really easy. The die comes perforated for you, so you really don't have to do any work. It's just a matter of making sure that you peak and valley the right piece. So again, there's 4 sets of 3 lines, and you want to take the middle line, kind of pinch it up, then fold it forward, away from you, and then fold it towards you. And that will make your 4 partitions that you need to create the mini album spine. So now I'm all done. I've done all of my hills and valleys, and I have my 4 pieces. The die gives you marks on dimensions and where you can cut things down, kind of give you a guide. I wanted my spine to be 2 inches. So I first made sure I took my bone folder and made sure all of my creases and my perforated marks were as crisp as they could be. And that's what it looks like. Everything's all nice and ready to go. So again, I wanted my spine to be 2 inches. So I want to make sure I glue, there's little rivers, little spaces in there where I'm pointing. You want to go ahead and add your glue to the inside. And I chose to use the art glitter glue. It dries fast and it's liquid. So I'm able to go ahead and get in that groove quite easily, and it doesn't provide the chunk that a hot glue would. But it also provides the stability of that. So I went through all of those little crevices, filled it in with the art glitter glue, and held it until it bonded together. Now on the die, as I was speaking earlier, they have these little guide marks. If you want your spine to be 2 inches down, you go ahead and cut along that spine, and your spine will be the 2 inches, or you can extend it and have a bigger, a bigger spine if you like. So I wanted to cut that down. This is you can even make it shorter if you want a shorter mini album. Now that the spine's complete, I'm going to go ahead and lay down some cardstock. That's 1 7/8 by 5 3/8. And I'm also going to lay down my inside covers. They are 4 3/8 by 5 5/8. So I cut down 2 of those for the inside, and I cut down an additional 2 for the outside. So I'm just going to flip that over to the back so that I can go ahead and apply my outside covers. And my summertime fun mini album is shaping together quite nicely. So we're back at the spine. We're going to take our 1/4 inch Scrappy tape, and we're going to add tape to both sides of those little peaks there. So this is a perfect fit. That's a 1/4 inch in thickness. So the Scrappy tape works well. It's double-sided. It will work. Go ahead and line that up on the front, and then flip it over and do the back. Make sure you secure that down. I use my bone folder at the end, but go ahead and apply tape to all of those sides on all 4 of the, or both of those sides on all 4 of the pieces. We are at the home stretch, guys. So go ahead and take off that 1/2 of that 1/4 inch tape, just the one side for now. And then we're going to apply that to the bottom of our open envelope. Remember, we didn't place that last piece there. Use your bone folder and make sure that that adheres really well. Go ahead and grab that top layer piece. We're going to add some Scrappy tape to 3 sides, the left, the bottom, and the top. So make sure you pay attention if you have directional paper. So you want to make sure of that when you're doing that. So this one didn't, so I can apply it. You just need to apply it on 3 sides. Go ahead and remove the tape from that, and then we're going to apply it to the spine. Make sure that the tape with no end is facing to the top. That's where your envelope, your pictures will go, or your memorabilia. So you want to make sure you line that extra insert or that top layer on top of the envelope, as well as touching that piece of the spine that's sticking out, and then secure it again. So we're going to do this over once more so you guys can get the drift. But once you see it, you'll know exactly what to do. I use my bone folder again. It's a handy little tool to make sure that that tape is adhered nicely. And there we go. We have a little piece on the back, and then we have our first little flap opens up, and it has a cute little pocket. So let's do that again. We're going to take off the tape on the right side of the little peak of our spine. We're going to open up our envelope. Attach that. Make sure you're following the guides to the previous envelope to line it up as best you can. Grab your bone folder, secure that on there nicely. Remove that tape that's on the other side of that little lip. Then we're going to apply tape to 3 sides of our layer and lay it right on top, making sure that we touch the bottom of the envelope, the spine of the envelope, and close it up on that little flap at the top there. It all lays together quite nicely. Use your bone folder to adhere it securely to the base. And then repeat that for the other 2. Super, super cute. So now that I have all of my envelope flaps attached to my universal spine, I'm going to go ahead and attach it to my mini album. I just want to make sure nothing is tucked anywhere to provide me any lumps or unwanted bumps. I make sure my edges are all cleaned up if I need to. You can use double-sided tape for this, or you can use hot glue. I fare well with hot glue, and I love a very sturdy spine, so that's what I'm going to do. Spread some hot glue around there, and I am going to find my center on my mini album cover and gently place this on the middle. So take your bone folder while that hot glue is still hot and go ahead and kind of varnish that. Open them up inside and take your bone folder and kind of wiggle it in there to make sure all the glue is flat and set. You don't want a lumpy spine. So make sure you do that. And then also pay attention to directional cardstock if you have that. So that's what we should have. Super easy. All those things are put together with your little pocket. You can add memorabilia. You can add photos in there. Really easy book to put together. So I'm just going through making sure that I give all of my little layers here a nice little varnish with my bone folder so they can lay nice and flat. I see I left that little flap open, that little white piece of cardstock. I did fill it in later, but that's what we should have at this moment. Decorate it. You still have a little room to decorate those if you want, or you can leave it blank for photos. So now we're going to take the Spellbinders A2 Divine Eloquence die, and we're going to cut that out. I used another sheet of paper that I've had in my stash, and I also cut out the Labels 28, the second from the largest there, and I got another piece of bright and vibrant paper, and I wanted to create a nice fun title. So I also grabbed the Happy Days dies, and I cut them out in gold and a coordinating pink base cardstock, and I'm just going to layer those together. So I'm going to use first some 3D foam squares to add some dimension to my labels here. I flip that over, and I'm going to add some pop dots to the back to make sure it stands out on my mini album. So I'm going to add it to the back of both of those layers. A little trick, I love how the 3D foam squares are flat. They're very thin. There's thicker ones available, but I use these thin ones. But I also add just a dot of hot glue to the back of all of my foam dots so that I know that they are super secure. So I'm going to do that and apply them one on top of each other. And I'm going to add foam dots to that as well. So now that that's done, I'm just centering that with my little hot glue there. My little label for the front of my mini album is complete. Like I said, easy, fun, and simple. And I love the fun colors. So I'm just going to attach that right there. And I don't mind that it hangs over a little bit. I was just fine with that. So I'm going to grab the Happy Day dies. Again, I cut them off so that I can create a little bit of a shadow. You can use your art glitter glue for this. I had some spray glue on hand, so I went ahead and attached that with some spray glue, and it works just fine. So you want to make sure you just give it a little shake so that it air dries a little bit, and you won't have to worry about having any residue on your die. A quick tip is to take a sheet of random paper and go ahead and rub that on the top so it doesn't stick. So I used some art glitter glue to attach that happy to the base of the mini album, and I'm just placing it right there in the center, and it worked perfectly. I wanted to piggyback on the gold that I had placed, so I'm just placing some flat back pearls in gold on four corners of the mini album, and then I'm going to take my crystal Nuvo drops in Simply White and go ahead around the perimeter of the whole mini album and the inside of the lace die with tiny little dots to add a fun element, and it just adds that simplicity to the album but gives it a little bit more distinction. So takes a little bit more time, but it's definitely worth the effort. And that's it, guys. That's how it's all turned out. The Crystal Nuvo Drops dries really, really quickly. And it's just a fun, quick, and easy album that you can give to your family or friends of things that you did. And the paper was perfect for summertime. So those are all the pages that we put together. You have your little pockets where you can stuff items in there. You also have the inside or the front and back covers if you want to use it for pictures as well. Be sure to check out the blog post in the description box for more information. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon.